School lets out at 3. The workday doesn't end until 5. Nobody did anything wrong here. The school ran on schedule. So did the job. Somewhere in those 2 ordinary hours, a family quietly inherits a problem the calendar never accounted for. That's the shape of the money trap hiding inside modern parenting. It grows whenever 2 normal parts of family life don't line up, and money becomes the thing that closes the gap. It rarely looks like shopping. It looks like Tuesday, refusing to fit together. A parent filling that 2-hour window might be paying for after-school care, a babysitter, an activity that happens to run until 5:15. The receipt may say activity fee or childcare, while the family is really paying for time. And that's only where the bill begins. The first part of the trap is the 2-hour gap. Picture a normal week. Monday, everything lines up. Pick up, homework, dinner, done. Tuesday, someone has to be at the school by 3, and the job won't allow it, so a sitter or an after-school program fills the space. Friday, school lets out 2 hours early, for no reason any parent actually asked for. None of these days looks like a crisis. Each one is just a normal weekday, behaving the way school days behave. That ordinary weekday gap has a market price. Care.com's latest cost survey puts the average posted rate for one child's after-school sitter at $328 a week, based on 15 hours of care. The family is paying hundreds of dollars for the space between the school bell and the end of the workday. The child experiences those hours seamlessly. Someone arrives. They get where they need to go. Dinner eventually happens. What the child doesn't see is the machinery underneath. 2 schedules built by institutions that never met, and a parent quietly paying to close the space between them. But say the family solves the gap the obvious way, by putting the child into an activity that fills the afternoon. That solves one problem. It just doesn't stay solved for long. The second layer is the cost behind the cost. The expenses that appear after you've already agreed to the price. The soccer registration was $180. That number felt manageable. It felt like the whole decision. Then came the cleats because last season's don't fit anymore. The uniform. Gas money for 3 practices a week on the far side of town. A tournament 40 miles out that somehow requires a hotel because the first game starts at 8 and nobody's driving that route twice in one day. A fundraiser. The expenses surrounding that $180 are common enough to show up in national data. The Aspen Institute's Project Play survey found that families spent an average of $1,016 on one child's primary sport in 2024, 46% more than in 2019. Travel alone now costs more than equipment, lessons, or the registration fee. A television reveals its price before checkout. An activity reveals its price gradually, one Saturday at a time, long after the family has already said yes. The advertised fee is only admission to an ecosystem nobody mentioned at sign-up. Once you start seeing family spending this way, ordinary receipts begin to tell a different story. If you want more videos uncovering the money systems hiding inside modern parenting, like the video and subscribe to Raised to Spend. The first 2 costs show up while the plan is working. The third, the backup plan tax, arrives the moment it doesn't. 7:15 in the morning. The babysitter texts, she's sick. The car won't turn over on the first try. None of that is unusual. What's worth noticing is what it threatens. One canceled plan doesn't just cost a morning, it can cost a workday, a meeting that can't move, and every plan stacked on top of it for the rest of the week. That's why some families quietly pay for something most budgets don't have a line for: redundancy. A second, pricier sitter who's actually reachable on short notice. A backup care service. A provider who costs more because they actually pick up the phone. That redundancy protects more than the calendar. Pew Research found that close to 1 in 5 employed parents would be extremely or very worried about losing pay if childcare fell through for even a day or 2, with the share rising sharply among lower-income parents. Once a missed shift enters the calculation, the family is comparing the backup rate with lost pay. Convenience makes a plan easier. Backup capacity keeps one failure from taking out everything wired to it. That tax is easy to miss, because on the days it works, nothing happens at all. That's exactly why it's expensive. It's insurance against a day the family never actually sees. Families also pay before anything fails, because uncertainty itself behaves differently once a child is involved. A parent picks a childcare provider partly because of how carefully they check people in. They add a location-sharing app to a child's first phone. They choose the pickup service with background-checked drivers over the cheaper one. Each choice feels ordinary enough to pass as common sense. Common sense rarely stops at one purchase, though. This provider seems safer. This app offers more visibility. This service double-checks who's picking up. Each choice is individually reasonable. Stacked together, they add up to something no household budget was ever built to track. The fourth layer is the safety stack. Price comparison behaves strangely here. A parent will happily save $10 comparing two identical products, but that math changes the moment one option feels safer for a child, even when the real difference in risk is hard to measure. Spending more feels like a way to reduce risk, which makes it almost impossible to price against. Nobody budgets for peace of mind. They just keep paying for it, one small decision at a time. There's a strange thing about spending like this. A lot of it begins before anyone actually decides to buy something. A schedule breaks. A plan changes. A safety concern shows up out of nowhere. Only after that does the purchase arrive. What if the family doesn't need a safer option? Or a backup plan? What if they just need permission for tomorrow to move? The cheaper class package can't be rescheduled. The pricier one can. On paper, that's a small difference. Inside a household where a child might get sick, or a meeting might run long, it starts to matter quite a bit. Backup capacity answers a collapse. Who can step in now? The fifth layer handles a smaller, more constant problem. What happens when the plan simply needs to move? This is the flexibility premium. Families pay for that permission constantly. A refundable booking instead of a fixed one. Childcare hours that stretch past the brochure. A class that lets you swap Tuesday for Thursday without a fee attached. Convenience means wanting something to be easier. Flexibility is closer to a confession. Nobody here can promise the conditions this needs to work under. A cheaper, rigid option can end up costing more over a year than the flexible one, once every rebooked class gets added up. Kids tend to experience this as completely normal. Plans change. Someone adapts. A ride gets rearranged. What they don't see is a parent quietly paying again and again for the right to be human about it. Some expenses appear even when the schedule works perfectly, because childhood happens around other children. The birthday invitation arrives on a Tuesday. A gift is expected. The class is doing a themed day, and the theme requires a shirt color nobody owns yet. The team is taking a photo, and the photo costs money. None of it is expensive on its own. Status spending has its own reasons. The sixth layer is the participation minimum, the smaller, stranger, recurring cost of simply participating at all. The question underneath most of these purchases is closer to, does this child really need to be the one who sits out? That's a different kind of pressure than status ever was. The gift, the shirt, the photo rarely carry lasting value. Their value is that a child gets to be included, instead of explained to. No parent has to say yes to every one of these. It's that ordinary belonging comes with a recurring cost that never earns its own line on a budget. It just happens, $10 at a time, until it adds up to something else entirely. By now, these purchases barely look related. Care, transport, a backup sitter, a safer app, a flexible booking, a birthday gift. On paper, they sit in completely different spending categories, yet they came from the same place. Go back to the family calendar. School pickup, a work meeting, an activity across town, a birthday, a doctor's appointment, another pickup. A traditional household budget tracks housing, food, transportation, insurance, savings. Underneath it, a second one quietly follows the demands of the family calendar. Who needs to be where? What happens the moment a plan breaks? What an activity costs once its full ecosystem shows up? What flexibility costs when nothing about next week is guaranteed? What ordinary participation costs? Gift by gift, shirt by shirt. The seventh layer is the second household budget. It rarely exists as a spreadsheet. It shows up as dozens of transactions that never look related. Childcare here, a rescheduling fee there, another paid hour because work ran late. That quiet accumulation helps explain why Care.com's latest survey found that parents report spending around 20% of household income on childcare, nearly 3 times the federal affordability benchmark. Two families can earn similar incomes, avoid every obvious luxury, and still face very different financial pressure because one calendar contains more gaps that money has to fill. That's the real shape of the trap. Family friction itself now has a price, and every mismatch between two systems is a chance for someone to sell time, reliability, safety, flexibility, or a place at the table. A household can make one reasonable decision after another, and still end up staring at a banking app, wondering where it all went, canceling the activity, firing the sitter, or feeling guilty about the birthday gift would miss the point. Most of these purchases are genuinely solving something real. It's simply worth separating two things that usually arrive bundled together. The purchase itself, the thing a family actually chose, and the friction cost sitting on top of it, a spending that exists only because the surrounding system made that choice harder to execute than it should have been. Worth asking every so often is, what does this really cost once the logistics around it are included? Is this payment buying the service or buying reliability? Which backup plans are actually worth keeping and which ones are just habit? Later that night, a parent closes the banking app and opens tomorrow's calendar one more time. Every gap has been filled. Every pickup has a plan attached to it. Nothing on that screen looks dramatic. No single line would make anyone gasp. That's exactly why the second household budget is so hard to see. It was never one big decision. It was dozens of small, reasonable ones, quietly working together to keep an ordinary Tuesday running on time. If this made you look at your family calendar differently, like the video and subscribe to Raised to Spend. We uncover the hidden money systems inside ordinary parenting every week.